What I really learned about the muscles was that they are just as emotional as they are physical. And when you start understanding how emotional our muscles are, many of the aches and pains that we have is literally being created by the mindset that we have thinking about those injuries. So you wake up and you have low back pain, or you wake up and you have knee pain, and people will get up and go, "Oh God, that's my back again. I have a bad back. It's a terrible thing." And as I started putting these pieces together, I would have physicians, orthopedists, neurologists, cardiologists, and we'd start talking about it. And they were like, "Man, you're in a different sandbox than everybody else." But the state of mind that a person's in, how they feel, as well as the things that they do, I learned have affects your muscles and how you feel every day.
What's up, you beautiful beasts? I'm Katie. I'm on a mission to help humans become their favorite versions of themselves and to strive for overall health by healing their relationship to food and exercise, healing their relationship to their body, and most importantly, healing their relationship to themselves, all without ever having to step on a scale. I have had the privilege to talk to all kinds of different humans who have been through a plethora of experiences just being a human and existing. I believe that every single time someone shares their story, at least one person listening will learn from it, be inspired by it, and maybe, just maybe, even change the entire direction of their life. These are the stories of humans unveiling their beautiful beast. Keep listening. This is the Unveiling the Beast podcast. Well, welcome to the Unveiling the Beast podcast.
Thank you.
Could you tell the listeners and myself a little bit about who you are and why you think you are who you are?
Okay, so that'd be easy. I am a muscle nerd. I have studied muscles for like 20 years. It found me more than me finding it. I had been in corporate America till about the age of 39. And I decided I'd lost about 105 pounds in 1997 and started working out to get myself back in shape. And I developed low back pain. And that led me to decide that I thought I wanted to become a massage therapist. So I went to massage school. And when I got into the school, I said to my wife, I know things and I don't know how I know things because I never had any interest in the human body beyond working out in the gym. And even the teachers started to notice, because someone would say to me, how did you know that? And to me, it was like it was as clear as somebody had drawn something out on a napkin and showed me before I really even had heard what was going on. So it found me, and the mentors started coming into my life. And the mentors, I'm talking about like neurosurgeons, chiropractors, kinesiologists, PTs. I had 5 of them. And they started talking to me about the basics function of muscles, which we all learn in any healthcare school. But then as I got in with the neurosurgeons, one of them was real key into dimension, started talking about the brain's role with the muscles, which intrigued me a lot. And when I really started diving in deep to really start studying how does the brain affect us when we're trying to do things like stretching or walking or standing and so forth, once I got into understanding that, I realized it was taking me down a path that not most people go on. And I volunteered at a senior center, and I was sitting there one day at lunch, and I went every Tuesday afternoon for all afternoon. And typically when you're around medical doctors and you're a massage therapist, they sort of look at you like the oddball kind of guy. Well, then 2 of them came over to me one day, and I was sitting there at lunch, and they said to me, "What are you doing those people in the room in there?" And I said, "What do you mean?" "Well, whatever you're doing, something's different when they come out." And I said, "Well, I'm pretty new at it, but let me show you. I can probably show you better than I can tell you." And by the time I got to the room to show them, I had 8 physicians in the room with me, talking about pressure. And I'm discussing with them what I see, what I find with people, especially as they age, because part of my background was in aging sciences. And they were just like, "Okay, I've never heard anybody say this before. This makes total sense to us. Would you be willing to come in on our consults when people have common aches and pains?" And I was like, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, I'm a massage therapist. That's not right, but they let me come in. Well, they started teaching me about how to read MRIs, how to read X-rays. And it just grew from there. And as I started working with people, I knew what I had gone through with back pain and how I'd fix my own back pain. And when I started working with people of all ages, as young as 10 or 12 years old to as old as 90, 95 years old, I started to see real changes in people's bodies. And what I'd really learned about the muscles was that they are just as emotional as they are physical. And when you start understanding how emotional our muscles are, many of the aches and pains that we have is literally being created by the mindset that we have thinking about those injuries. So you wake up and you have low back pain, and or you wake up and you have knee pain, and people will get up and go, "Oh God, that's my back again. I have a bad back. It's a terrible thing." And one of the things that I found out in those situations, and this is just a prime example, if you get up out of bed or you get up out of a chair and your back feels stiff and hurts as you stand up, but when you sit down, the pain goes away, you don't have a back problem. You have a thigh problem. And the front of your thighs is the key to it. And as I started putting these pieces together, I would have physicians, orthopedists, neurologists, cardiologists, and we'd start talking about it. And they were like, man, you're in a different sandbox than everybody else. And so I just started studying people, and I went back to school, got a degree in aging sciences. When I'm at the school, of course, I'm in anatomy classes with medical students and PT students. And I helped one of my professors with her shoulder pain. And I was explaining to her, what I saw and what was going on. And she said to me, "Where did you learn that?" And I said, "Well, it just kind of came about with my mentors as I was talking to them, and I just kept digging deeper and deeper and deeper." And finally, she said to me, "If I give you a day in the class to teach that, would you teach it to all my classes?" And I said, "Yeah, if you give me an A." And she goes, "You got an A. That's an easy thing." But she said, "This is not in any peer-reviewed journal." And we literally combed through peer-reviewed journals for about 6 months, and we couldn't find anything that would compare because it's not really measurable. But the state of mind that a person's in, how they feel, as well as the things that they do, I learned have affects your muscles and how you feel every day. The knee pains, the back pains, the hip pains, the neck and shoulder pains. I mean, something as simple as the way you walk can literally create neck and shoulder pain in your body. The shoes you wear can create neck and shoulder pain. Now, your feet are comfortable,
Mhm.
but it'll create neck and shoulder pain. And we can talk about that as we go along.
Mm. I I love all of this because I one of the things I tell my listeners and my people all the time is emotions are stored in the body. But I
Yes.
never go like deep into it. And
Yeah.
so I'm glad you're here because if you're open and willing to share,
Yes.
like how I love too that you said our muscles are emotional as
Yeah.
well as physical
Yeah.
because that ties into the whole emotions are stored in the body.
Yeah.
Um, and typically, I don't know how people react when I say that, but like if you think about it, the first time I heard it, I'm like, well, yeah, because I can feel it right here in my body, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it never goes into the actual muscles, which
Yeah.
emotions are stored in the body and
Yeah.
muscles are part of our body. So
Yeah.
can you go a little deeper into
Yeah.
that and yeah, just yeah.
Okay, so let's do that. So
Okay.
so like I said before, everything you think, feel, and do will affect the tension in your muscles. So when we hear people talk about stretching, we're lengthening muscles is what the term they like to use. Your muscles are shortened, we're lengthening muscles. So the quickest way to think of the muscle is think of a rubber band. You put it between your fingertips and you twist that rubber band, and it'll get shorter. So when we are dealing with emotions, we can be sad, we can be angry, we can be happy, we can be melancholy, we can be anxious. The muscles will change. That tension in the muscles will change. So the more anxious you are, the more angry you get, the more you're twisting that rubber band as tight as you possibly can. Well, so those muscles are crossing over joints in the body. And so when they get tense, the muscles are the only thing that can apply pressure to all parts of your body. In other words, think of a quadriplegic. They're laying on a bed because their muscles can't apply pressure to the bones. They can't sit up and get up off the bed. The muscles also can pinch a nerve. It can cause a disc to bulge. It can cause a disc to herniate. Again, and I've asked this in roomfuls of doctors, you ever known a quadriplegic to have a bulging disc or a herniated disc? And to this point, no one's ever raised their hand and said they had. So when you look at the muscles like that from an emotional standpoint, if you're carrying a lot of anger, if you're a very anxious person, you're a type A kind of person, and you're constantly, I've got to be doing this, I got to be, and your mind is just going like a flywheel, you're creating tension in the muscles in your body from your mind. So when you go back to that connection between the mind and the muscles, think of the fight or flight response that we have. Our mind's job is to keep us alive. And so anytime it senses danger, whether it's the saber-tooth tiger chasing us, or we can't pay our bills this month, or we're not going to make our deadline, and all of a sudden you get this chronic stress building up, the muscles then are activated by the brain to get you out of that danger. And so when you stay in chronic stress where, I've got to be this place at 10 and this place at 9 and that place at 11, and oh my gosh, I hope I can pay my house payment this month, or I hope I don't lose my job, or what if my divorce is going to come, whatever the case may be. And you're constantly in that mode of you're thinking of this all the time. You're literally in a state of the saber-toothed tiger chasing you 24 hours a day because the muscles have not released. You're not going to sleep well. You're not going to digest your food well. Your brain is going to be pretty much offline because you're focusing on the other things in your life, but your body, your muscles especially, will react. So when I'm talking to people about stretching, I'm not talking about grabbing my leg and pulling it as hard as I can and holding for 15, 20, 30 seconds at a time. Most times when you see people do traditional stretching, they're doing strength training, but calling it stretching because they're doing resistance training. They're using their leg or they're using their arm for the resistance. What I'm talking about is you'll use a yoga strap or an 8-foot rope, and the techniques that you'll move your leg or you'll move your arm in certain positions just enough to start to feel the tension, and then let the mind take over and relax, and then it will relax the muscle, which will make that give happen in the muscle. You see, in essence, you're unwinding the muscle, but what you're unwinding is the emotion that created the winding of the muscle to begin with. Okay. So you can also tighten the muscles through the physical aspects of you're lifting a child, you're lifting a box, you're driving cars, you're looking at your phone, you're on the iPad or whatever. And the body starts to get seated in a positions like behind a computer like we are now. And
Mm-hmm.
and then the body, everything we do out in front of us. Well, most people will have back pain at some point in their life. They'll have neck and shoulder pain at some point. And so all the pain is on the back side. When you talk to a practitioner, they want to work where the site of the pain is because that's how they're trained. That's how I was trained in school. Okay. Realistically, when you understand the muscles, what's happening is the muscles on the front side, because everything is done out in front of us. The outside chest muscles tighten, the front of my neck tighten, the front of my hips tighten. That increases the compression on my spine from the back side, creating pain, but the cause is on the front side, you see.
Mm-hmm.
So you're dealing with emotions when you think about how you feel and what state of mind you're in. That tightens and affects your muscles. And then you're dealing with the tightness of the muscles from everything that you do physically as well. So you're getting hit from 2 or 3 different places. Once somebody starts to have pain, then it's like, oh, yeah, well, I'm 50. That's what they say. When I turn 50, my low back is going to start to hurt. Oh, poor Jim. He's got such a bad back. His back kills him. And everybody kind of just dotes on you like that. And all of a sudden you're sitting there going, I'm never going to get out of this. I'm never going to. And all of a sudden you'll start to see the shoulders start to slump. They start to get a feeling of hopelessness, which just exacerbates the problem. And then they get tighter and tighter. And then eventually they wind up wearing out a joint, they damage a disc, they pinch a nerve, and then somebody has a shot, somebody has a surgery, somebody has a pill that they become addicted to, or not addicted to, but attached to, because it makes them feel good in the moment, with no idea that there are little things they could do to turn that completely around if they just had the tools.
Yeah. I want to see how this can tie into so my favorite podcast is not my own. It's called Mind Pump, and it's 4 dudes, 3 of them are trainers. They've been trainers
Yeah.
for years and years, and they just nerd out on personal
Mhm.
training, they nerd out on working out, they nerd out on like relationship to food and exercise, and it's just my
Yes.
favorite podcast. And one of the
Yes.
things they say often is we are not over fat, we're under muscled.
That is so true. That
And
is so
so,
true.
yeah, and I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
and it's true. And
Yes.
my own personal theory of why we are so sick is
Yeah.
I think part of it is our diets, but I think most of it is because we don't move. We don't
That's
move
exactly
anymore.
right. That is
And
exactly
so
right.
I want to see how this can tie into what I just said is how
Yeah.
we're under muscled. Like, how can we view building muscle or even
Mhm.
just keeping the muscle that we have? Because
Yeah.
I think cardio is over what's the word I'm looking for?
Overrated?
Not necessarily overrated, but people like for example, when somebody wants to lose weight, they immediately go
Yes.
all the
Yes.
cardio. And I'm like, but you're
Yes.
burning muscle too when you're
Yes.
doing that. And so
Yes.
all that said, like how would this tie into like
Yeah,
just strength training, the importance of strength training?
that's a great question because the thing
Mm-hmm.
is once we hit 30, we start to lose about 1% of our muscle mass every year naturally. Okay. So if you
Mm-hmm.
get to be my age at 65, that's 35 years. That's 35% of my muscle mass lost if I don't do anything with that. The
Mm-hmm.
importance of the strength training is twofold. Number one, or it's actually threefold. Number one, it helps to improve the density in your bones. So if you're dealing with osteopenia, you're dealing with osteoporosis, having the weight training, it can be weights, it can be rubber bands, it can be body weight, but building that muscle actually helps to improve the density of the bones in your body so that you can fight back against that. Number two, it's about mobility. It's about the ability to be able to get your butt up out of a chair, walk to your refrigerator, walk to the mailbox, go walk around the block, to be able to build that strength in your legs that you can pick yourself up and down out of a chair, get yourself up and down out of a bed. And then the third phase of that is muscle is fueled by glucose. And that's very important. When I lost 105 pounds in 97, not only did I lose it, but I maintained my weight until 2020, where I lost another 30 pounds doing the same thing again in like 4.5 months. Now, what's important about that is I was not on any fad diet that you see up marketed on TV today. But what I learned from this physician who had studied nutrition is that when you are consuming a lot of refined carbs, and by refined carbs, I'm talking about breads, pastas, white rices, white potatoes, French fries, that kind of thing, it increases your glucose spike in your body, as do most foods. And so now the pancreas has to kick in and has to have an insulin spike to balance the glucose in the bloodstream so that you can survive and live. The problem with the insulin is that it's a hormone that signals to the brain, let's don't burn those calories right now. Let's store them on the hips. Let's store them on the side. Let's store them on the belly for a rainy day. Okay.
Yeah.
When you're building muscle mass, because they are fueled by glucose, now when you eat whole foods, and I'm talking about vegetables and also protein, and I'll touch on that in a minute, the muscle then, instead of having the insulin spike, you have enough muscle mass that is consuming that glucose to reduce the insulin spikes. So people who are overweight, where they get in trouble, and even the ones who are diabetic, is that they don't have enough muscle on their body to consume the glucose, which leads to the insulin spike, which causes the body to store it as fat. And it becomes very frustrating when you're trying to lose weight. When I was at 315, I was tried every diet on the planet, and I'd lose 10 pounds here, 15 pounds here, only to gain back 20. Okay. And the reason for that was that they taught me the diet. They didn't teach me how to eat food. And
Mm-hmm.
that's real key. So, what the doctor taught me about food was when I wanted to lose weight, I'd look at my plate. 75% of my plate would be green vegetables and salads. Then 20% of my plate would be protein. And then 5% of my plate would be the refined carbs. Now, when people say I'm on a no carb diet and they eat a salad, they're not telling the whole truth because a salad is a complex carb. Okay. So, what I did was I did that. I lost 105 pounds in 18 months, and I was exercising as well. Okay. But when I got my weight where I wanted it, then she had me to cut my vegetables back to about 60%, increase my protein to about 30%, 35%, and then leave the 5% refined carbs. I maintained that weight. I went from 315 to 210, and I maintained that weight from 1998 to 2020, and I didn't have to work hard at it because I just followed that thought process. Now,
Mm-hmm.
what the green vegetables do is give us plenty of fiber in our intestinal walls, which is like a gelatinous coating that as we eat food, it reduces the absorption of glucose into the system by as much as 75%. Then by exercising and building my muscles and eating the protein allowed my muscles to consume most of the rest of that glucose, you see. So I didn't have the massive insulin spikes that I was fighting with.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I see people who are overweight, even to obese, I look at them as under muscled people, but also undereducated people about the true effects of food. So the protein becomes important. An adult male should be taking in about 100 to 125 grams a day. An adult female should be 75 to 100 grams a day because if you're eating the protein, which helps build the muscle mass, and then you're working out to build muscle mass, now you've got more resources to eat up that glucose that you're eating in your diet. Now, cardio is good for the heart, but
Mm-hmm.
just like what you said, if you don't work out and you're trying to run your brains out, look around your neighborhood. Look at the people who are running and they look like they're at death's doors. They're running down the road and they haven't lost a pound, or maybe they lost 5 pounds. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And all my friends who've done those kind of things, they were just like, I don't know how you did it, man. You just lost weight. I don't see you working at it. I don't see you stressing over it. There is no stress. Once you understand the importance of the food you're eating and what you're eating, now the exercise can take over and then you can run from there, you see, and you lose the
Mm-hmm.
weight. And it's not even hard. That's the thing, it's not even hard. We just have to educate people about how to eat their food. And so my wife, who was a retired dietitian, and when I was heavy, did not know her. She would never dated me had she seen me at 315. But once I met her and I started sharing with her about looking at food strictly as fuel, because so many people, and I was one of them, was an emotional eater. And so we would
Mm-hmm.
be with our friends and they always want to talk to her about diet. And she would share my story of losing 105 pounds. Well, they would automatically turn from her and start talking to me. And she'd get upset about it. And I said, okay, so let me help you with that. You've never had to lose a pound in your life. And I said, I can tell you as a person who used to be heavy, when I saw somebody like you, I'm thinking that skinny little thing's never lost a pound in her life. She has no idea what I feel. And she looked at me really funny. And I said, they're looking at me not because they think I'm smarter than you, but I lost the weight. I did what they want to do. And you learned the theory about it. So I said the best way to work at it is let them hear my story, let them talk to me, and then send them back to you for the science behind it. But I said you have to teach people how to eat food. Now, an interesting story, we grow most of our vegetables in our backyard. So when our friends come over, they always want to go see the garden. So my wife one day said, let's have some fun with that. So she gave each of them, there were 6 people between 60 and 80, a piece of paper and a pencil. We had 26 different vegetables growing in a hydroponics farm and earth boxes. And we said to them, list all of the vegetables that you can recognize, and whoever does the most will give you a prize. So out of 6 people, one lady got 3 right. She saw the tomatoes that were red. She named those. She saw the bell peppers that were red. She named those, and she could identify one lettuce. Out of the other 5, 2 got 1 right, the tomatoes.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of them could not name a vegetable in that little garden. And I said to my wife, think about this. If they were starving to the point they were laying on the ground, there could be food 6 inches from their nose and they would die. So, how in the world can people lose weight if they don't even know what food is?
Yeah.
So we've got an education problem here, and it's about educating people about how their bodies work. Most people who are overweight could lose that weight if they had the knowledge to be able to do that. And that's what I did. And in 2020, I lost another 30 pounds in like 4.5 months. And I'm still at the same weight I was at 2020 when I lost the weight. It's just doing the same thing over and over, but it's not hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's I think you're right in that it's an education problem because there's so much false information
Yeah.
going around on the internet.
Yeah.
Because I
Yeah.
started a list of the most ridiculous things I've been hearing lately.
Hmm.
One of them being, you should drink aged urine. I'm like, what? And
Yeah. When
yeah,
did the hunter-gatherers do that?
yeah, I know. So I think part of it is that, and I guess my question for you would be the long version of it. I work with people. My clients are people who have um, a history of like disordered eating, disordered
Hmm.
exercise patterns. And so my goal with them is to help them heal their relationship to food and exercise
Good.
and mostly heal their relationship to their body and their
Yeah.
relationship to themselves so that when they're going on their health adventure, they
Hmm.
go from a place of love rather than
Hmm.
I hate my body, therefore I'm going to try to change it,
Yes.
you know?
Yes.
And so all that said, what would you how would you incorporate all this information to
Yeah.
the person who has the unhealthy relationship
Yeah.
to food because of all the dieting?
Yeah.
Like I was on a diet for 27 years and then
Yeah.
I finally got it. Okay, it's not the diets
Right.
that are going to save me. It's
Right.
my education and my
Yes.
relationship to all the things I'm trying to do for myself.
That's true.
So, how would you address that
Yes.
person?
So my question to you is, where were you when I was in that spot? Because I was in the same spot. I felt my body was betraying me.
Mhm.
I'd been a three-sport athlete. I thought my body was betraying me. One of the stories that the doctor I started working with told me, she said, let's think about this for a minute. She goes, what kind of car do you drive? And I told her, she said, so it burns unleaded gas, right? And I said, yes. She said, all right, so you go to the gas station with your car. The first pump in the station is the cheapest one. It's kerosene, but it's the first one there. Do you want to use that? And I go, well, no. Why not? Well, my car burns on unleaded gas. The second pump is diesel fuel. It's a little more expensive, but it's way cheaper than the unleaded. And it's the second pump in. Do you want to use that? And I said, well, no, my car runs on unleaded. Then you means you got to go to the third pump. It's a little more expensive, but are you happy you put it in your body? Well, yes, sure, because that's what the car runs on. Okay. So when you translate that to our bodies, think of our bodies as that car. If I pull up to the first one, yes, convenient food is easy. I can go to the drive-through. It costs me $1.50. I can get a sandwich. I can do all those things. But it's like putting kerosene in a car that runs on unleaded. So did my body betray me or did I betray my body? You see? And it's like, so now I have to think about, okay, well, then what is it my body wants? What is it my car wants? And the manufacturer will write on the car, it takes unleaded fuel. Unfortunately, somebody doesn't write that on our bodies. Okay. So that's where the education comes in. And the same thing, you can go to the diesel fuel. Well, it's a little more expensive. And yes, I have to walk in the door to get it, but I always feel like crap when I get done. Did my body betray me? No. I just made a bad choice. That's all. What's
Mhm.
wrong there is not that my body betrayed me. I didn't know what was the right choice of food,
Yeah.
you see. And so if I'm in a position where I'm fighting and I can't lose weight and I'm stuck in that spot, what that doctor gave me was the information of what food my body needs so that it can excel.
Yeah.
And the same thing happened with the exercise. You know, I was at the gym the other day. Of course, the New Year's resolutioners are coming to the gym early. So there was a man who was in, he was early 70s. I could tell he did not know how to do a push up. But what did he start out with? A decline push up.
Oh.
He's not using his arms, his hips are going up and down. And I said to my wife, by next Monday, he'll be at a doctor's office or a chiropractor's office with a bad back. Now, he would might think his body, he's old, his body betrayed him. But it
Hmm.
really didn't. He didn't make the right choice to give the body what it needs. And where we're missing the mark is we're not giving our body what it needs, and then we think our body betrayed us. And that's just not true. Our bodies are just the most amazing thing. I mean, it's like when I was 18 years old, I broke my pelvis in 7 places. I broke my left arm. There was no metal put in my body. And I know today that's unheard of. The doctor I had, I said, you're going to put a rod in my arm because my upper left arm was broken completely in two. And he goes, no, sir. I believe if the creator wanted us to have metal in our body, we'd be born that way. He said, you'll be fine. And he was right. My body healed itself back. Same thing with losing the weight. It healed itself back. but it didn't do it until I learned how to make the right choices. There's
Hmm.
nothing wrong with my body. There's nothing wrong with your body. What's
Yeah.
wrong is nobody's taught us how to make the right choices, whether it's food, whether it's exercise, and even with the stretching. It's like when you were overweight and you feel terrible. And I always, when I have my patients who will come in and they hear my story about the weight loss, of course, they want to talk about the weight loss. And I said, let's begin here with number one, getting you feeling better. If your
Hmm.
knees are hurting, your back is hurting, your shoulders are hurting, let's get your body loosened up a little bit so that at least you start to feel better. And then we can talk about food and we can educate you about food so that you can move forward. I'm not a dietitian, I'm not a doctor, but what I am is a person who has lived that life and has taken and learned the choices and show people that you can change your body once you are educated to know the choices.
Hmm.
And we make people feel bad because they're overweight, is like if there's some loser or something like that. The truth is we just haven't taught people how to do it because there's more money in ignorant people not knowing how to do it.
That.
And if we can make them feel bad, we can sell them anything in the world to feel great,
Yep.
you see. And
Yeah.
when I figured that out in my life, then for me it was about I need to teach other people how to do the same thing. And I've helped a bunch of people lose weight. I've helped a bunch of people who they thought they needed shoulder surgery or knee surgery, wound up not needing it at all and getting their lives back on track, even if they're 90, 95 years old and they start doing things they haven't done in 10 years.
Mm.
That's the goal.
Yeah. And the
Okay.
beauty of all this is everybody's
Yes.
body is different. And so
Yes.
to be
Yes.
different for everybody,
Yep.
which, I like to say, put the personal back in personal training.
Exactly right. Exactly.
Everybody's going to move differently.
Yep.
Everybody's going to need different nourishment.
Yep.
There are people who do better on low carb diets, me not
Yep.
so much. I like the glucose in my brain, but
Sure. Sure.
uh, but yeah, it's different for everybody. And
And I
so,
always say that to people, you have to play with that diet plan to see
mhm,
what works for you. And it's like, again, not every food I eat will work for you
mhm,
because you may not like the taste, you may not like the texture, you may not like something, but there's always other things you can find to take its place.
yeah.
And it's like we've got to get back to putting in our bodies food that the body recognizes. Things that comes in boxes and bags with a barcode on it, 9 times out of 10 is ultra processed. And the ultra processed sets off inflammation. And that inflammation is not just in your joints, it's in your brain as well. And it's like we as people have to take that back and take that knowledge and learn. There's all kinds of information on the internet with people who give out great information, but learn about our food, learn about exercise. Understand that if you're 65, 70 years old, you are not going to the gym and work out like you did at 18. That's not happening, okay? Unless you're
Yeah.
extremely lucky. But if you understand where you are and you build a baseline there and you start to just stick with it and be consistent and realize there's nothing wrong with you. You just don't have all the choices that you need to know how to make. That's all.
Mhm. Yeah. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you wanted me to ask you?
um, Off the top of my head, well, I mean, the biggest thing is the why should people care about their muscles and how they feel and it's what's happening. So with everything we've talked about today, we talk about nutrition, we talk about working out, we talk about the stretching, and even we've talked a little bit about self massage as well. Understanding how your body responds and how your body reacts in each of those four arenas will help you to age better. When I talk about aging better, I'm not just talking to people who are 60 or 65. When you're 25 and 30, if you can get it now, when you're 55, 65, 75 years old, you will be amazed at how much better your health is. And it is understanding how your body works and what it needs to survive well.
Hmm.
And every person can find that. You just have to look for it and ask the right questions. But again, and I so appreciate what you do for people because I see so many people who look at their bodies. My wife, I tease her all the time. She'll look in the mirror and she always finds a flaw. And I said, I wish for one day you could just see yourself through my eyes. I
Yeah.
said, you would never see a flaw in your body. And the thing is our bodies are magnificent machines that can heal itself to amazing things. We just have to know how to operate it. That's all.
Yeah. I recently shared I don't think it's a meme. It was just a something somebody posted. I shared it. It said, "I'm not training for my summer body. I'm training for my old lady body so that
There you
I
go.
can roll around on the floor with my grandkids. I
Yeah.
can lift up the heavy things and still be active in
Yes.
my old lady body." So,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we see people, I see young people all the time. They look see somebody who's 75, 80 years old and they go, oh, they're like really old and decrepit. And I go, not all of them. I see guys
No.
who are riding bikes 40, 50 miles a day at 23, 24 miles an hour and they're 80 years old, you know? And it's
Yeah.
like, start now. If you're young, start now building that body so that you're not the typical old lady or old man. And you'll
Yeah.
be amazed at where you'll be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just to add to that, I'm really seeing now, like watching my parents aging,
Yeah.
I'm really seeing that old is really just a mindset.
That's all it is.
Like my mom, she's 71 and
Yeah.
you would think she's in her 50s. My
Yeah.
dad has been sitting down for 12 years.
Yeah.
And, he's rickety and he's like the
Yeah.
typical old man you think of when you think of
Yeah.
the elderly. And it's because they have two completely different mindsets.
Yes.
And so, yeah, it's been fascinating to
Yeah.
watch. So like,
Learn from them because
yeah.
I'm glad you're catching on to that. My mom is 86. This is her first year that she's not worked in her life. And
Mm,
it's driving her crazy because she likes to move. But my mother at 86 has no artificial joints, no heart disease, no cancer. She can stand up with her legs straight and put her palms of her hands on the floor at 86 years
mm,
old. And what's troubling her is that she's had to slow down a little bit, but it's her mind, she wants to keep moving and wants to keep doing things. And it is a mindset. It is a total mindset.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. My dad's 86 also.
Oh yeah.
He
Yeah.
was in his late 40s when I was born, so um,
Yeah,
but yeah.
I'm a good bit older than you. My mom was early 20s when I was born. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But
But I mean,
my
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
But I'm saying at 40 years old, I was in all kinds of pain. At 65, I wake up with zero pain.
Mm,
And I can ride my bike. I walk 2, 3 miles a day. I'm working on 8 to 10 people a day in my office. I'm doing videos. I'm doing all kinds of things to try to help people. I wake up with no pain. I'm up at 4:30, 5 o'clock, and I'm off and running. And it's like anybody, if I can do it, anybody can do it. And it's just a matter of just knowing how to make the right choices. That's all.
yeah. I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
Well, I have one more question for you.
Okay.
And I ask everybody at the end of every episode, and that is if you had one piece of advice that you could give to the world, what would it be?
Look at yourself 5 years from now. And if you see yourself 5 years from now, would you be happy with the choices that you're making today? That would be my question.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Beautiful Beasts, Butch Phelps, signing off. Until next time.